anyhow, I do not have any financial disclosures nor any conflict of interest. Financial disclosure, very important, because most of the studies that I'll quote are going to be sponsored. This is a very famous painting, On the Threshold of Eternity, which depicts deep depression attributed to a balding scalp. Something wrong with the slides. We'll start with some common non-cicatricial alopecias like pattern hair loss and the effluvia, on which we'll be concentrating more today, especially the pattern hair loss. AJ or MPHL, as we know, is the most common alopecia in males, while female pattern hair loss and the telogen effluvium constitute the largest proportion of hair loss in women. In the structure of hair, the point that we'll focus more today is the base of the hair follicle, which has the dermal papilla and the ECM. The dermal papilla, as we know, is the main pivotal structure in the hair follicle, which has a role in its formation, growth, size, as well as the cycling, while ECM provides the mechanical and structural support along with metabolic regulation and the anchorage of the hair follicle in the bulb. Why are we reading about it? That is because this is where all our newer agents are going to act. These three main mechanisms of hair loss and androgenic alopecia we all know: the DHT modulation, alteration of ECM integrity, and the hair follicle microinflammation. Apart from that, the several newer mechanisms which are catching the fancy of most of the scientists developing newer anti-hair loss drugs are the beta-catenin pathway, the imbalance between PGD2 and E2, along with oxidative stress.
Is there some problem with this audio visual?
So it's actually skipping the slides also on its own.
Is it moving now?
Yeah, on its own, even without me handling it.
Please, can you set up this audio visual? And also, you can skip unnecessary details which you think may not be relevant to your talk.
These are actually just relevant in terms of the targets of the peptides that we'll talk about. The newer therapies, improvement with why do we need newer therapies? That is because minoxidil and finasteride improvement is limited. Success rate is barely 30%. The adverse effects of finasteride and minoxidil, along with the other pathophysiological pathways that are involved. So coming to the peptides and hair loss, even though the last study that I could see is in 1993, they have become the buzzword only over the last 5 years. What are these? We all know they're made of amino acids, can be a dipeptide, tripeptide, or a tetrapeptide. And they act at a very low concentration, which is their most important advantage when we are using them in dermaceuticals. Acetyl tetrapeptide is the first one that we are going to talk about, which has 4 amino acids: serine, aspartic acid, lysine, and proline, compounded with an acetyl moiety, forming this tetrapeptide. It stimulates the production of ECM proteins, betters the hair anchoring, as well as increases the size and number of the hair follicles. It is marketed in a complex with red clover extract, biocanin A, as Capexil. The mechanism of action being anti-inflammatory, DHT modulation, as well as renewal of the ECM proteins. The in vitro study of Capexil shows that it strongly stimulates the human hair growth after 8 days of treatment, which is pretty short span of treatment. The clinical study in 30 patients shows it increases the anagen hair, it reduces the telogen hair density, increases anagen-telogen ratio by 46%, which is very high. All the other factors also it acts upon: the ECM, the inflammation, the 5-alpha reductase activity, and all of them. When it was compared with minoxidil, it shows that it works almost 3 times better than minoxidil, which is again a very startling fact, but we'll talk about it later. All these studies are sponsored, no independent trials. So you take it with a pinch of salt. Coming on to the next peptide, which is the copper peptide. It is a tripeptide which has glycine, histidine, and lysine coupled with a copper moiety. Functions being increased laying down of your ECM, anti-inflammatory, as well as increasing the stem cell reservoir, along with angiogenesis. It also works on the DHT, something wrong with the slide, sorry. It also works on the DHT, decreasing the conversion of testosterone to DHT. Current research focuses on modulation of genes which are responsible for the degenerative processes in the skin. It has also been seen to increase the hair transplantation outcomes, as can be seen in these two studies, almost reducing the time by half to new hair growth, skin crusting, and hair shedding. When compared with minoxidil, it has been seen to increase the hair count much more as compared to minoxidil after a treatment of 3 months. This is another peptide complex with copper. It increases growth factors like VEGF and FGF, further increasing the hair growth. And this is actually the only one with which I could find an indexed PubMed study. Now talking about copper GHK, there was a study on copper-free GHK which has as good results on hair as is a copper coupled with GHK. Moving on to the next group, which is matrikines. Here the bioteptide are the important matrikines, and the vitamin-bearing peptide has a dual matricial and a metabolic action. These again increase the ECM as well as decrease the aging and the atrophy of the follicle. Biokipil, it's a synergistic combination of these three compounds, again antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. It also increases the follicular stem cells and the growth factors. When combined with Kera rice, they are known to increase the AT ratio, promote hair growth, and reduce hair loss. The next peptide is thymic peptides. Yes, we haven't heard much about them. They are derived from the thymus, 4 of them, out of which it is the thymolin which has the best results on hair growth, TYL. It works through the neuroendocrine system like the prolactin, thyrotropin, and ACTH. The study that I could find with this is on chronic telogen effluvia and AGA, where 98% of the patients noticed improvement. Few placebo-controlled studies on the use of thymic peptides and chemotherapy-induced alopecia showed a 72% benefit in these patients. And also an important point that we can notice with these thymic peptides is that the immune advantage of regularly utilizing these, their autoimmune neutralizing human trials were very disappointing, so much so that the company discontinued with the human trials. A point that has been noted with PTH peptides is that both the agonist and the antagonist increase hair growth, although through different mechanisms. Initially, it was the PTH antagonists which were gaining favor, but now PTH agonists are also a part of a lot of new upcoming studies. A few more peptides that we'll concentrate upon. It is carnosine. It's a dipeptide. It increases longevity of fibroblast and deposits ECM. Caffeine, although an alkaloid, but it's a nitrogenous compound, has been seen to increase hair growth both through direct and indirect benefits. Atracin B is a very recent discovery by the UCLA USA. It has a role in the stress-induced hair loss, where the hair loss is due to cortisol and the cortisol receptor. This atracin B has the ability to block the action of CRF, and only one shot given per day for 5 days maintained its effect for up to 4 months. That is the most interesting part about the role of atracin B. I'll take the liberty of giving some tongue twisters to you all. These are few more peptides in hair loss, which work through the pathways that we discussed earlier, the beta-catenin pathway, the BMP blocker, as well as the DKK pathway.
Well, your allocated time is over. We'll give you 1 more minute to finish. One more.
The obstacles to peptides, skin penetration is an issue. The longer peptides take longer time to penetrate. They are broken down easily by the proteolytic enzymes. Toxicity, not as much because their proteins do not elicit a lot of allergic reactions. But still, toxicity is a major issue. Cost is as it is very high. Formulations, gels, lotions, serum, shampoo, all of them are available, even oral agents. And another form in which we can use these peptides in hair loss is mesotherapy. Applications we all know. Eyelashes is something that we've not discussed. There are no studies, but this is also a potential use of these peptides as a mascara formulation, which is leave-on on the eyelashes. Now, coming to the utility. In AG of men, it is totally open to the house as to how much they think it is useful. In female pattern hair loss and chronic telogen effluvium, it can be used as an adjuvant to minoxidil in case the patient is having some side effects to minoxidil, or minoxidil cannot be prescribed for some other reason. In CDTHL, it can be a tide-over therapy till the primary cause is corrected. Shortcomings we've all seen. It's a sponsored study. There are no independent trials. Hardly any of them in indexed journals on PubMed. Most of them I could find only on Google search. Not even the full text articles of most of the studies that have been quoted on the web pages. Other than that, since there are no long-term studies, the toxicity profile is not known. And the longest follow-up that was seen in the Capixel study is 4 months. We do not know what happens beyond 4 months. Do the hair stay? Do they fall off? What is the plateau? We do not know anything about it. Evidence level, we all can judge. There are no control trials, no meta-analysis. These are individual studies. What would be the evidence level that you will all provide to it? Not really. And pregnancy breastfeeding, there is no trial as such talking about its safety in pregnancy and breastfeeding. All the few web pages online say that it is safe to use in this category of patients. Acceptance amongst dermatologists, how many of you do you actually use it? Peptides, could you please show your hands?
Go to last slide now.
Sir, over. Oh. So how many of you actually use it and how many of you have seen benefit with it? Well, even the market data tells us, this is a combined data of the use of this acetyl tetrapeptide in the market, which show that the acceptance is majorly in the metros, while the smaller cities and the towns have it as less as 0 to 1. And in the metros also it is Mumbai and Delhi which are using it majorly, rest of them have still lesser use. But since we anti-hair loss agents make up one
Thank you,
quarter of
Palvi. I think we will have to take few questions on your this thing. If you have 2 short questions that we can allow.
What? Sir, that is the paying capacity. Who can pay as much? Sir, we are rich, we can pay. We are rich, we can pay. It's a pot of gold, all of us are ready.
Even Bangalore is also selling less. Why?
Do you have any, say, technical, scientific, academic question to ask?
Thank you, sir.
Maybe.
I was going to ask Dr. Girdhar that if he has any question.
Yeah, someone
Really?
else also raised a hand. Maybe we can ask him too if he has a question.
In the end, I'd like to thank Dr. Rishi Parashar for giving me this opportunity as well as helping me with a lot of stuff on these biopeptides, which were very difficult to tackle in the beginning because none of the data is standardized. It's all Google search, which has helped me make this presentation.